Welcome back, guys. Viper V recommended that we do a setup video for 30,000 subscribers, and this last week the channel hit 30,000 total subscribers. It's actually up to just about 30,200, so thank you guys for all of your support. It's been absolutely awesome, and it's really been taking off here over the last couple of months, so thank you guys so much for that. And this seems like a pretty cool way to show you what I've been doing here as far as getting this little office set up. I started this project about a year ago, so I think now's a good time to go ahead and just show you guys what's going on here. Okay, so welcome to my office. Here it is. The first thing you can see is that I have a nice green screen back here, and this is actually quite large, but it's large because it's set back a ways from where my chair is, and it's also just as high as that it came in. So that there is held up by just a PVC pipe, so real simple. Just bought that from the hardware store. Printed off a couple of brackets up there that hold that in place, and you can actually twist this thing so it'll actually come up. So let me go ahead and do that and show you what else is going on in this room. Alright, so the green screen is all rolled up and out of the way, and this right back here, when I do my little product reviews, that's the background you're seeing there, and then the camera is actually placed where my chair is, so that'd be the camera I'm holding right now. And then here's the desk that I have there. I have my key light, then I have my fill light back there, and then I kind of got this light up here, and that kind of just gives some nice even lighting to the green screen. So all of those are, you know, LED daylight colored light bulbs. Real simple, cheap stuff. So here's a better look at my desk. So I sit right here, a little bit off center, but that way I'm straight on with this camera. You can see it right there, and that's just a little Logitech 617 or so. And then I've got this little lip on the top that keeps the lens in shadow, so that I don't get any sort of extra light on the lens coming from the light that's up there. And then you can see here, this is my microphone. This is the Blue Spark Digital. I'm working on my own custom pop filter, but normally I'm just using this one right here. Then I got my little black Razer headphones. I like these. They're very, very comfortable. And then you can see my keyboard and all that fun stuff right down right there. So my computer, I built this a couple years ago. I was going to do a video on it, but I never got around to it because I wanted to do a review on all the products, and not all of them worked out that great. But it works really good for what I do. Just to go over what's inside of it, the core of this. Everything runs off of a X99 series motherboard, and this was new at the time, and that's powering an i7 5820K. So that is a 6-core, but with 12 threads because it's hyper-threading i7 chip from a couple years ago, and it's still going super strong. Gives me lots and lots of power, and as you can imagine, I got a giant radiator and stuff inside of there. And then recently I upgraded to the GeForce GTX 1070, and that is a really, really good fit for my monitor. Now this monitor is not that fancy, but it is 144 Hertz, so it's just an AOC monitor. I could actually give the details down there in the description below. However, this monitor is actually one of those ones that uses FreeSync, so that's set up for Radeon cards, or sorry, AMD cards. They're called AMD ones now. And so it's not necessarily meant to match up with this one, but I find that it works out just fine. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it though, because it's kind of bad for everything except video games. So 144 Hertz at 1080 is something I definitely recommend, probably more than 4K, but over here is just another cheap monitor, and this one looks better in just about everything. The color depth on this, that's the problem, so you get a lot of color banding in videos and stuff. However, 144 Hertz, beautiful, and that has been the biggest upgrade to my gaming experience for a long time. Anyhow, 16 gigs of RAM and a whole bunch of hard drives is what's inside of this computer right here. This is a Thor case, so this is a full ATX case that I have over here. So it's got lots and lots of room, lots and lots of bays. I figure if a case is going to sit on the ground, you might as well go with a big one because it's easy to set up and run and all that stuff. It's got a bunch of silent fans in it. This one came with like 240 millimeter fans, and they were all right, except for those motors. They give off a little bit of vibration, and since the sheet metal on this is so large, that creates a low hum. So I replaced that with some, quieter fans. Inside of my desk, you can kind of see just some of the different things I have on hand. So, I got a little Xbox controller, a couple of mice that I've used over the years. This one is starting to wear out. But this has my favorite. This is the G602 Logitech. This one's pretty good for like CAD work. You can kind of do this and do a spinny wheel, whatever. And then I got a real cheap mouse there. That's more or less the setup from a physical standpoint here. I think the only other customized thing I have is that I put these little rails on the side for the mic boom. That way I can take this, and when I don't want it to have it, you know, when I don't need it in my face, what I'll do is I'll just take it and kind of fold it up out of the way like that. So I like that. That's a good and easy way to kind of free up your desk space, so when you're not recording, that works out really good. Alright, so let me explain what I'm doing for the acoustic treatment of this room. You can see that I have put these little squares on the wall. Now these are pretty standard. You see them all over the place. A lot of YouTubers have this stuff in their in the background. Now this pattern here, I decided to go with this pattern on a gray background color just because I felt like this was a little bit more interesting and a little bit more inspiring and a little bit more creative than just a flat wall with constant tiling that would be this way, right? So just kind of like these panels over here, which just didn't work out to fit any other way. So I thought that was a pretty decent layout for this setup. So what this is, again, just a bunch of triangles. You can take these and cut them in half, and then this is 1-inch spacing in between. You can actually get tape, you know, real masking tape or whatever, that's 1 inch wide. So laying this pattern out is super easy. However, when it comes to mounting this stuff on the wall, a lot of people use spray adhesive. Now, in my opinion, when I was actually going to do this, that's the one thing I did not want to do, because spray adhesive on the wall leaves a ton of residue. Plus, if you try to pull this stuff off the wall and move it into another place, you're going to end up leaving gunk either on the wall or little divots out of the back of your panels and all that stuff. So what I ended up doing is a couple of things. One, I tried to put a backing on 4 of these things, make them into tiles, and then mount those tiles onto the wall, but that didn't really work out that well. What I found to work the best is this kind of double stick tape. Now I've removed a ton of the labeling around it as I've used it, but this stuff I guess is like acrylic tape or something. It'll be down there in the description below, you'll see it. Super sticky tape will be the name next to the link, but this stuff is awesome. It's not only the most sticky stuff I've ever used. I mean, you can stick all kinds of stuff around with it, but if you put about 5 of these things, a little bit, you know, little squares on them or whatever, on the back of these panels, they'll stick right to the wall, and they stick really good. And then when you go to remove it, well, you end up with just a little, you know, thing on the wall, right? You can just, right, so if I pull this back, you'll see that little, that's it, that's the tape. And if I want to get rid of this tape, look, I just kind of roll it, and then I start picking it off, just like so. And it takes a little bit because it's super sticky, but you can see it just peels off the wall like that. Boom. No residue or anything left on the wall. So as far as I know, that's the best way to mount these panels on a wall if you don't want to have any sort of residue left behind. So I recommend it, and it works well, and I've had these panels up on the wall for over a year. Okay, so the other things that I'm doing inside this room are my bass traps up here. Now these are a little custom made. I don't know how well they work. I just know that they kind of work, right? So I have these placed throughout the room. I could strategically place them better. They work better in the corners. They do work better up here, and my ultimate goal was to have them cover, you know, all of this side and all of this side, just so that it was in the background and it wasn't really in my face sort of deal. So when I'm over here, this is, you know, all I see. I don't want to have a big triangle up there and all that stuff. The other thing is I don't really want this room to not sound like a room, because making a room way too quiet is kind of weird. So, okay, so let me explain my bass traps here. First and foremost, this color here is from a rug. It's super cheap. You can get it for like $8 or something like that. It's just recycled, made of recycled material. You can find it at your local hardware store. You can see I have a roll of it in the corner right here, just because maybe it does something. And that is all stapled onto a square frame made of, I think, 1/2 by 3. That's the nominal dimensions of the wood. So I just kind of, you know, cut it and then screwed them together, right? And then I've mounted it on a couple of printed brackets right here. At least this one is mounted on bracket. One bracket there, and then the other in that corner right there. So I don't really need 4. And then this one's trying to hold up by wire, but you can see that it doesn't really work quite as well. But inside of here, the thing that makes it work is there is insulation that is acoustically rated. So let me go show you that. Okay, so here's the insulation. It is Roxol Safe and Sound. So this thing actually has ratings on it. You can find out about it on the internet as far as like what acoustic properties it has. But I noticed it is basically used for sound deadening between rooms. So I figured take this, put it in a box, and hang it on my ceiling. Right? That has to work. So if you get this, and then some of the wood like this, right? And then get some rug, cut it all to length, whatever it needs to be, staple it together, and boom. That's what you end up with. A little bit of, in my case, a bass trap, or just an acoustic panel, whatever you want. So that's what that is. You don't necessarily need to have both these and that, but I like the look of this. You know, nice creative space, a good place to work in, and I did it for the windows because it's really nice to look out there, you know, when I'm making videos and stuff. Good creative zone. As for the software I use to run this channel, it's really simple and really cheap. The one program that costs money is Movie Studio. I used the 13th edition and I got the Platinum deal several years ago. However, I just reinstalled Windows and I cannot seem to register it anymore, so I might end up having to call somebody or, you know, hopefully not buy it again. But luckily, I got this program several years ago for 40 bucks, and my gosh, I've made nearly 1,000 videos with it, so I think I've got my money's worth out of it. I have used Vegas. I've also used the Adobe software as well, and I just feel like those programs are a little bit too big for what I do. This is very simple recording stuff. So as far as my recording software, again, I've used many different things over the ages, everything from the Elgato software, like hardware, but OBS Studio seems to be the best way to go, or the cheapest way, and you know, gives me really good results. So you can see this right here. This is OBS Studio. It's version 19 currently, and I'm just recording both the desktop audio and the mic auxiliary with one overlay. It doesn't get much simpler than this, guys, and this is at 60 frames per second currently, even though the video, this one's going to be uploaded at 30. Okay, so as far as the settings that I'm using to record, if I go over here to output and then look at recording, you'll see that I'm using a recording format of MP4. Then I have the two audio tracks. So I have the desktop audio and then the mic audio, and these are in separate tracks. And the reason that's important is right back here you can see the main audio, so that's the game, and then I have my mic down here and I can see it visually in that file right there, and so I can quickly trim to the parts where I'm actually saying something, so I don't just have to watch the whole thing and then trim it from there. So that allows me to quickly trim down the video to, you know, stuff where I'm saying stuff, and then I can figure out what I don't want anymore in there and get rid of that. As far as the CPU usage, very fast, very simple right there, but I do run a little bit higher bit rate. I do have kind of an SSD that I'm recording on too. I have used the platter discs for a long time, but I've burnt up several of those. So I do recommend an SSD. You don't necessarily need to cache all your videos or, you know, have a huge space for that, but I do have 250 gigs. I recommend at least that much. But these settings right here, they work fine for me. So, and then that's very simple as far as what I'm doing right there. So that's what I use to edit, and that's what I use to record. As far as my thumbnails, I use a program called GIMP, and this is free, and it's, you know, it works pretty much like Photoshop, except for it's free. So there you have it, guys. That is my tour of my little YouTube studio here. I like it personally, and I think I've gotten a lot of mileage out of this setup thus far. To be honest, a lot of the stuff you see here is really cheap and affordable and very doable on your own. Honestly, that's what I use. It's pretty simple. It's really easy to just record one file, drop it in, trim it up, boom, and I'm good to go. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys have found this video somewhat interesting, I guess, right? If you're ever wondering what's behind, you know, my head here, you now know. So thank you guys for all of your support recently for 30K subscribers, and it'll be interesting to see how long it takes us to get to the next milestone. So thank you guys so much for all of your support recently, and for those of you that have been here for years and years, I've been doing this for about 4 years now. Thank you for your continued support. You are truly awesome, and I'm so glad that you've been here for as long as you have. So thank you guys, and have a wonderful day. Stay awesome, guys. Peace. Brothgar.